The SeaWorld Entertainment Company seems to have had a rough last couple of years. With everything that's happened, could our sense of where SeaWorld currently is be wrong? And what would that mean for the future? Well, I'm gonna try and answer just that in this video. Before we get into it, this is a quick disclaimer. The majority of the video will be my speculation, so don't take everything too seriously. The primary purpose is for entertainment and a new outlook on current events. So to start us out, we're going to go all the way back to pre-pandemic. This is when SeaWorld was starting to make some of their biggest investments ever. You might know what I mean when they attempted to install a roller coaster at every single park in 1 year. Those of course are Emperor at SeaWorld San Diego, Texas Stingray at SeaWorld San Antonio, Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa, and Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando. Everything was fine and dandy until COVID hit. Texas Stingray was the lucky one that was able to open before. Everything else wasn't so fortunate. And from the way things were going, it seemed to have a major negative effect on the company. The pandemic immediately shut down the parks, closing off all income. Simultaneously, the construction and opening of these highly anticipated roller coasters stopped as well. And later on, we learned of a rumor that SeaWorld was not able to pay the companies building their newest attractions. At this point in time, it seemed COVID had had a huge impact on the company. No income and no way to open their newest attractions. Resulting from this came a somewhat regular operating season in 2021. It is important to note the restrictions that these parks had to go through, including the limited park capacity. Here's where things get a little tricky. At this point in time, everyone was under the impression that SeaWorld was struggling financially. Plus, lower attendance numbers were not going to help that. However, what I think some people fail to realize is how the company was able to use 2021 as a recovery year. Most of their parks were hitting capacity on a weekly basis. I can tell you from experience that's still a lot of people. With this number being hit, there was no reason to open or even push for any of their new coasters. Instead, the company would recover the lost money and slowly work towards opening them. That's why moving into 2022, we're finally seeing the opening dates of their highly anticipated coasters. To me, this logic makes a lot of sense. Hopefully now these parks can ramp up to full-scale operations. With so many more people in the park, the return on investment would be tremendous. But it still doesn't tell us where SeaWorld is financially. I think it's safe to say SeaWorld has successfully recovered the lost money and is now looking towards the future. They have set rough opening dates for many of their new coasters. That tells me if the rumors were true, they finally paid the manufacturers of the projects. What tells me even more is some of the plans we are seeing. When the parks were still experiencing the effect of COVID, plans were uncovered for a new one-of-a-kind coaster at SeaWorld Orlando. Of course, speculation went wild on what it was and when it could possibly open. The general consensus was, put it on hold because of the pandemic. Makes sense, right? Well, in the past couple of months, new and more detailed plans have come up about Project Penguin. I would say this means the park is already back to looking at future investments. Somehow they must have recouped enough money to go ahead with this project, especially with it being a first ever surf coaster. It doesn't stop there though. As recently as the end of 2021, more plans were uncovered by BGWFans.com. Not for SeaWorld, but for a different park, Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Again, they have not even opened Pantheon and are already looking towards the future. At first glance, this doesn't seem to be as big of an addition, but it is a roller coaster nonetheless, and if they do it right, it could be a high-tech masterpiece. If you want more information on both Project Penguin and this new Busch Gardens Williamsburg coaster, definitely check out bgwfans.com, the link will be in the description. But based on these two projects alone, I think it's easy to argue that SeaWorld is no longer being affected by the pandemic. If that's not enough evidence for you, here's a little comparison. Cedar Fair was fairly conservative throughout the pandemic. They opened Orion in 2020, and are set to open Tumbili in 2021. SeaWorld was able to open Texas Stingray in 2020 and is set to open Emperor, Pantheon, Iron Gwazi, and Icebreaker in 2021. Keep in mind, the Cedar Fair chain is around double the size of the SeaWorld chain. Additionally, we have uncovered 2 possible SeaWorld projects for 2023. Similarly, we have uncovered 2 possible Cedar Fair projects for 2023. That would be Knott's Berry Farm's Giga Coaster and Cedar Point's Gerstlauer. I bring this up to show how a bigger chain is making a similar amount of investments moving on. It just goes to show that SeaWorld has pretty much recovered and is moving towards the future. And that brings me right to the future of the SeaWorld Entertainment Company. First and foremost, I think they learned an important lesson on major investments. They tried to build and open 5 major coasters in 1 year. While it was unexpected, it came back to bite them. I think in the future, we will see them take a more common investment approach. Each park will get some sort of investment, just not a multi-million-dollar one each year. New coasters may come every 2 to 3 years, and other flat rides will fill in the gaps. I do understand they are trying to make the transition from a wildlife park into a thrill park. They don't have to install a coaster every year to do that though. While us enthusiasts love that, there are many flat rides that can still fit this category. They are also a lot cheaper. So that's my take on the SeaWorld situation. They are fine financially and looking towards bright horizons. However, we may see a little change in the types of investments that the company chooses to make. I expect this as long as the new variants of COVID do not cause a mass shutdown like before. If it does, we're in for a lot of unknowns. It will depend on the restrictions put on the parks. However, in light of keeping this video positive, I'm not going to go down that route. If you really want to speculate that path, just look at what's happened over the last couple of years. That being said, I plan on getting some new ride credits this year, especially from the SeaWorld parks. And again, remember this is all speculation, so form your own opinions how you will. So that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you guys think of my speculations in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.